Welcome to today's webcast series presentation, Is Your Engineering Firm Prepared for the AI Revolution? My name is Beth Brooks, Director of Civil and Structural Engineer Media. Thank you for joining this webcast, which is sponsored by BQE Software. Before we begin today's presentation, first some general information about the webcast and the GoToWebcast platform. The views of the speakers and organizations participating in this webcast are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of Civil and Structural Engineer Media or its publisher, the ZWAG Group. If you have any technical difficulties while viewing this webcast, please submit questions or a brief explanation of your technical problem using the Question tab on GoToWebinar control panel, and a representative will assist you. During the webcast, you can also submit questions to our speaker using the same Question tab. Submit your questions at any time, and we will try to answer as many as we can later in the webcast. The ZWAG Group encourages group learning for our events. If you are viewing the live webcast with a group on one registered person's computer, that person must complete and submit the multiple viewer registration form for the group in order for everyone to earn credit. You can download the multiple viewer registration form from the Handouts tab on the control panel. Submission instructions are on the form. Viewers of the archive webcast must pass a quiz in order to download a certificate of completion. Today's presenter is Steve Burns, Chief Creative Officer of BQE Software. Steve is a licensed architect and a member of the College of Fellows of the American Institute of Architects. He sold his architectural firm in 2007 to work full-time on the startup he launched to create ArchiOffice and Engineer Office, and then he brought his expertise to BQE Software. He earned his Master of Architecture from the Harvard University Graduate School of Design and his Bachelor of Fine Arts from Syracuse University. His passions include ultra-endurance cycling. He's ridden as far as 522 miles without stopping, and working with the LA Social Venture Partners to help innovative nonprofits change the landscape for social justice. And now I'm going to hand over this presentation to Steve.
Okay, Beth, let's see here. Change presenter. Did you hand it to me yet?
I did. Let me know if you get it.
I'll just make it to myself and main screen. Show my screen. Whoops, we'll just do that. Okay. Okay, good. I think you got it, right? Let's get started. Thank you for that introduction, Beth, and welcome everybody. It's really one of my favorite topics because it combines two of my passions, professional services and business intelligence, artificial intelligence. I have a lot I need to share with you today, and I don't have a lot of time, although Beth did tell me at the start of this that I could run a little longer if the questions went on longer, so I will stick around as long as those of you have questions. So let's just dive in, get through these slides, and then we'll get to the questions. So, is your engineering firm prepared for the AI revolution? And I'm going to be rather bold here and say for most everybody in attendance today, the answer is going to be no. And hopefully that's why you're intrigued enough to attend. Artificial intelligence is neither some science fiction creation nor some fancy technology that's really only available to the most sophisticated firms with bottomless pits of cash. With the exponentially rapid pace at which technology is being developed, each of us has access to these once inconceivable tools. And some of you may not even realize it, but you're already benefiting from artificial intelligence when you use such simple things today, such as navigation features on your mobile phone. Now, whether your firm decides to proactively implement artificial intelligence and business intelligence technologies is really not the point here. Progress is going to continue to happen with or without your participation. Eventually, how your firm operates is going to be so dramatically transformed by AI that whether you're in the game or you're ignoring it, doesn't matter. Your industry will have been transformed. So unless you're looking at retiring very soon, it really would behoove you to get on board. After all, how many of you are still producing drawings on a drafting table with vellum or mylar? Many of you today may be part of the same generation that I am, which was disrupted by computers. And we had to make that pivot away from our beloved Maylines and T-squares and triangles for CAD, and of course now for BIM software. Now, as I take you through this webinar, I'm going to ask you 4 poll questions, and I want to launch the first 4 poll questions. I really appreciate you trying to answer this as quickly as possible so I can get through the slides, but they're really helpful in me moving forward and how I speak to you in the presentation, and also just helps us understand you a little bit better. So let me launch the first poll, which is, how important do you think business intelligence is for the future of your firm? So let's launch that poll. Just let me know, is it extremely important? Fairly important, and it's great because we have a huge crowd here today, so I think the results are going to be much not so skewed. It'll be much more fair and reasonable. So I'd love to try to get about 80 or 85% of you in here. We're at 60% right now. Is business intelligence something that you think is important for the future, or the future of your firm? Give you 5 more seconds. 3, 2, 1. So let's take a look and share the results of those of you who have voted, and we will share the results. So almost 60%, 58% think business intelligence is extremely important, whereas 3% say maybe it's just hype, or it's not important at all. And I'm hoping that for the 3%, or maybe even the 41% of you who make up the bottom 2, I'll be able to persuade you differently moving forward. Okay, so let's move on. Now, this might sound a little strange to you, but one of the major problems with most small and mid-sized firms is they put nearly all of their energy and their time and focus on the clients they serve. And this is often a point of pride for most engineering firms. They do this at the expense of their own firm. So while we typically glorify companies who outwardly state our #1 goal is client satisfaction, while ignoring the corollary that providing the best customer experience can, if you don't have proper planning, proper processes and technologies in place, it can come at a huge expense to your business. And very often that's a big threat to the long-term success of your firm. So if your firm's like so many others that claim, it's all about the client, then if you want to deliver on that promise, the most sensible way for you to achieve this is to be honest about your limitations, your skills, your limited time, and recognize the value that properly invested and implemented technologies can bring to your firm. So we create these technologies to serve us. Let's embrace them. Now, to help support this thesis, in a recent survey from PwC, it's an amazing, enormous accounting company, 72% of business leaders believe that AI will enable humans to concentrate on meaningful work. I think that's a really important metric and an important concept, because there's a lot of fear out there that AI is a disruptor and is going to maybe take over your business. It's really going to allow you to concentrate on meaningful work. I like the way they phrase that. Now, our webinar is about AI, but there's another technology we also need to point out. Business intelligence, BI, it refers to the use of various technologies and tools which can collect and analyze your business data. And the main purpose of BI is to provide companies like yours with useful information and an analysis which will aid you in your decision making. So BI allows businesses to make their decisions nearly 5 times faster than they otherwise could. So it really streamlines the process of collecting, reporting, and analyzing your data. Now, the quality of your data and the consistency of the data is also dramatically improved with business intelligence. And a little later, I'll explain to you what I mean about the quality. Business intelligence, unlike artificial intelligence, does not tell you what to do. It tells you what was and what is. Now, so while BI takes reams of noisy data and it converts it into meaningful and actionable information, AI, artificial intelligence, is the ability to model human behavior and human thought processes. And we're going to learn and it's going to learn from the data that it's been analyzing, and it's going to make rational decisions. And I will demonstrate later on how this can make our lives better and how AI actually is able to make more rational decisions than any of us. I just wanted to share with you these data points. I pulled this from a study this morning, and I'm going to add it to the slide deck that I give for downloading afterwards that you can all get. This also came from PwC that I mentioned earlier. Now, this was a massive poll of those business leaders, and this is the result of where they found AI would contribute to their firms. What you're looking at is a significant reduction to those necessary business functions which really get in the way of professionals performing the services for which they were really trained and the skills for which they were hired. And this is why AI is truly good news. It's not about that fear mongering we hear about, how our jobs are going to be replaced by the robots. Instead, it's about how your job will need to transform in order to accommodate these improvements and these changes. When I look through this array of 9 functions, in fact, this is actually pretty much what we deal with at our company at BQE Software, and I'll give you a little glimpse into that a little bit later. So, okay, we're going to kick this off with an explanation of what we really mean when I say artificial intelligence. And there are 4 functions that comprise AI. First is machine learning. This is probably getting the most press because it's also sounds a little bit scary, and there's a potential side effect of this that's all interesting in the sci-fi movies. Remember HAL? What this really means is that we no longer need to manually program our systems. We don't literally have to write machine code in order to change the results that the computer is going to provide us. That's a dramatic transformation to what we had to do as early as 5 years ago. Smart machines can now teach themselves with access to increasing amounts of data how to refine themselves. The next is voice recognition. We're all probably pretty familiar with this now with the proliferation of Siri and Alexa and Google Assistant. This feature, by the way, also includes security due to our unique voice patterns. Next up is natural language processing, and this works together with the voice recognition, but we are seeing amazing strides in this technology. Lately, some of us have been totally tricked by these extraordinary human-like, these human-sounding robotic phone answering systems. The fourth is the capabilities for machine reasoning. That's where the devices have these logical techniques like deduction and induction, very human. Lastly, my favorite of the 5 is the deep neural network, and I'm going to go a little bit more into that in a fun way later on. All of these technologies, when they applied effectively, can perform those critical decision-making tasks, which we typically associate, with human intelligence. And the scary thing about this is that the ability of these devices to make correct decisions is increasing exponentially. Back in 2010, IBM introduced us to Watson. It was really the first time we all became aware of how the world was about to change. Not only did Watson destroy its opponents in Jeopardy, it was playing against those 2 champions at the time, Ken Jennings and Brad Rutter. Today, I think like last month, there was a new grand champion, but they were the champions in Jeopardy history, but Watson just decimated them. But now Watson has moved into the business sector, and it's not just for entertainment. Indeed, think about that. IBM is, what's the B stand for? It stands for business. So they are all about business. So today, Watson's being used in healthcare industry, pharmaceuticals, biotech, publishing. It's used in engineering and construction, when the construction with regard to building codes. It's used in education. It's used in weather forecasting, even in fashion design. And 2 years ago, H&R Block began a nationwide use of Watson as well. So if you don't think AI is going to impact your business, you are grossly mistaken. Watson and other AI systems are gunning to transform the way you work and live. So now that we have an understanding of the basic technologies that are behind this AI revolution, I need to back up and discuss the current state of the business. Having spent my first 20 years in business as a principal, working in the trenches, running a mid-sized architectural firm, I know what it's like to try and balance the push and pull of running your firm and serving your clients. For the past 15 years, I've worked in the software industry where we design and build the systems that help run businesses. And I have interacted with literally thousands of small and mid-sized AE firms. And the one consistent takeaway that I get is these businesses are clearly suffering. There's typically one person or a small number of people within the company who recognize that things are just not right, or perhaps they sense that at least things can be improved. So these are the people who aren't really satisfied with the status quo, and they're hoping to find that silver bullet that can make their jobs easier. They know that what they've been doing to keep the boat afloat, it's just plain crazy. They're working in this Rube Goldberg universe, and they're kind of looking for a lifeline. But helping rescue them and bring them to safety is far more difficult than you'd expect. There are really strong forces under the water that are pulling hard on them to keep them from grabbing that lifeline and being carried to safely. And with this in mind, I've come to certain realizations which I need to discuss. Without a doubt, an overwhelming percentage of professional service firms are stuck in a world of highly repetitive, mundane tasks that are not only extraordinarily inefficient, which of course means expensive, but they're as obsolete in the business as that fax machine is. And I hope nobody in attendance today is still using fax machines. Nonetheless, these businesses are stuck. Invariably, when they're presented with systems that are clearly superior to anything they currently use, they're going to acknowledge this, but they're going to find excuses like, we are too busy right now to take on that project, or it looks great, we'll take a look at it after the new year. And when the new year rolls around, they'll have an excuse to push the can down the road another few months. It could be that there just isn't any budget available right now, or maybe there's a new principal in the firm and they need to reevaluate, or they'd like the rest of the team to look at it, but they're all too busy right now. I have heard every excuse under the, under the sun that people will use to try and not, get themselves in shape. I'm actually, now that I think about it, just think about all the opportunities you have to go to the gym and all the excuses you make for why you can't make it there. It's the same way. So anyway, I've always been amazed at the lack of care that the business owners take into the management and care of their own firm, whereas they're going to give 110% for their clients. By the way, for those of you who use Excel to really run your company, to analyze your business, I just want you to understand that Excel is just a simple tool. It's a powerful tool, but it has nothing about business intelligence. It's really like a horse and a buggy, whereas AI and BI are really that Star Trek transporter for our real world. Ultimately, all of us here today understand that investing the time up front to designing and building a business process yields so much efficiency and productivity to the business that once they have a consistent and systematic process in place, that's what affords us the time and attention that our clients are expecting and deserve. So it's like building a bridge. You first need to put the thought and energy into that foundation, those caissons, erecting that structure before you can start driving over it and enjoying the benefits of high-speed travel. So there's a lot of work that has to go in before you can reap the fruits. I'm going to give you a really dumbed down, simple example. It's probably not the strongest example to prove the point, but I think we can all relate to this. Let's say we've gathered data in our firm about the work we've been doing over the last 12 months. And it turns out that we have 4 different types of clients: healthcare clients, manufacturing clients, maybe we do work in the arts and recreation area, and finally some retail clients. And we also know how many hours we've spent working for them and how much revenue we've made from them. So I prepared a simple little spreadsheet to explain it. Of course, there's really so much more information that one would want to consider, like what did it even cost us to do that work? But there's no profitability information shown in this particular example. From this information, I can also see the average dollar per hour that we made. And I've also brought in some data about the average days it takes our clients to pay their bills, so the aging. So let's say this is the extent of the data that I know. And my question might be, where should I direct my business? Where should I maybe invest in some marketing? So if I want to improve my cash flow, I'd certainly go after more healthcare clients since they pay on average in 38 days. That's twice as fast as manufacturing clients. and 2.5 times faster than the retail clients. But of course, this data doesn't even tell me if I have a cash flow problem. That's the kind of information that I'd have to have figured out with some other analytics. Now, if I want to improve my revenue, I'd go after more retail clients since they have the highest average dollar per hour. They pay more than 1.5 times what the healthcare clients have been paying. And lastly, I might say my best bet maybe is to go with manufacturing clients since they pay much faster than retail, but it's almost identical to what we make when we do the retail work. So how do I feel about my decision? I'm going to go with spending more marketing and business development dollars to go after more clients in the manufacturing sector. Well, actually, this is a totally useless exercise, or at least one that has left me taking an action that is actually not, let's say, quote unquote, informed. True business intelligence needs to consume so much more data than I'm able to gather in my little Excel exercise. For example, my algorithm might want to take into account current business sector trends. If I could tap into a great database that's looking at the growth of all the industries that we can service, I'd find out that maybe manufacturing is hardly keeping pace with the cost of living index. I would see that the healthcare industry is skyrocketing and I should be aboard, that train. Even retail, in spite of what one sees going on with Amazon and what I'm hearing in the news, it's growing at nearly 3 times that of manufacturing. So these are the industries that are growing and they're hiring. And so maybe I need to match my skills with those growth sectors. And perhaps the reason we're not doing well in healthcare is we have the wrong staff or we need to change our internal processes. So this is really just one of countless examples that I can make for why the way we look at our business, the way we've been looking at it for decades, is insufficient, ineffective, and I would even say it's dangerous. So if you were to ask the question to an AI system, we would expect it to properly put together the pieces of information across a deep neural network and come up with the best answer. Certainly an answer that is more considerate than that any human has come up with. Okay, I'm going to give you another poll question here. We've abbreviated it in the poll, but I'll give you the full question, which is, does your firm regularly analyze data? Maybe it's about your employees or your clients or your projects, maybe even including the economy, and use that as part of a strategy to win more business, to deliver your projects more effectively, and find new business opportunities. So let's go ahead and launch the poll. Very simple. Yes, no, it's not my job. I'm sure there are some people in the audience today maybe who don't have that responsibility within the firm. Let's see if we can match up as quickly as possible with the people voting in this poll. Don't be shy. No one knows who you are. Just throw your vote down. I'll give you 5 more seconds. Does your firm regularly analyze data as part of your business strategy? And 3, 2, I will close the poll down now and we'll share the results. Oddly enough, it's 50% of you do actually analyze your data, and that's good to hear. And 38% say no, we don't analyze data. That's a definitive no. That could be a problem here. Thank you for that. So let us move on. Anyway, at BQE Software, we believe that the deployment of artificial intelligence is going to cause significantly more disruption than anything we as humans have ever experienced. Even more disruption than what the internet created in itself. And so I've gone on and I'm doing a couple slides here just to kind of explain disruption in an interesting way here. I'm going to take a look at the most disruptive moments in human history brought to you by the fine folks in tech. I'll skip the invention of the wheel and jump straight to 1455 when Gutenberg created that first movable type printing press. We look back on this time in history as one of those defining moments where things suddenly and irrevocably changed for mankind and clearly, therefore for all life on Earth. But the truth of the matter is, in spite of that colossal achievement, it took another 150 years before the printing press had a measurable impact on society with the inception of the period known as of the Enlightenment. And that's 150 years before books and the dissemination of knowledge became readily available to the general public, and they weren't just available just to the elite. By the way, I apologize, if I've jumped to Gutenberg and I've missed thousands of years of incredible inventions. I know we got all engineers here today, and you're probably thinking, my God, there's some great things. I apologize. I'm just picking out a couple here. The next one is 1760 with the onset of the Industrial Revolution. So anyway, at first this really targeted, just the textile industry, and in very short order, there were manufacturing plants popping up all over the world, churning out countless miles of textile products. It totally upended an industry which was really rather happy plugging away without a care. But in spite of that amazing impact of the Industrial Revolution, it started with those textiles, it took nearly another 150 years before the general population really noticed any real change in their standard of living. It completely killed an industry, but the general public didn't really notice that. It didn't have any kind of an impact. Now I'm going to fast forward to 1962, and that's the year that the National Physics Labs was created. That was immediately changed to ARPANET. So ARPANET is the Advanced Research Projects Agency Network. That's it. It's truly arcane stuff. It was the exciting new field of packet switching networks. Then 9 years later, in 1971, there was a grand total of 15 sites connected around the United States through that ARPANET. And it wasn't until another 3 years later, in 74, that we even came up with the term internet, which means, internetworking. It took another decade until 1982 when the Internet Protocol Suite was finally developed. So we call this TCP/IP today. That means it took 20 years before there was even a protocol available to permit a worldwide proliferation of interconnected networks. It took another 7 years before our beloved first ISPs, Internet Service Providers, came into existence, like AOL. They were created in 1991. That's 30 years after the movement began. We had AOL. So now here we are, some 56 years later, 57 years later, and imagine what we're going to have in another 25 years, considering the accelerating pace of change. So back in 1961, John Kennedy made that famous speech to put a man on the moon and return him safely to Earth. A few months later, the National Physics Lab and ARPANET are born. And each of us has in our pockets today a smartphone that is literally millions of times more powerful than all of NASA combined when Neil Armstrong set foot on the moon 50 years ago the other week. So looking at that magic number of 150 years before technology impacts the world is really no longer a good metric. I can't begin to think what the world would look like in 2112. And maybe that's also fortunate that none of us are going to be here to see it, because I don't think we would survive with our current skill. Quick question. Do you believe autonomous driving vehicles will be ubiquitous within a decade? Will we be seeing them all over the roads within the next 10 years? So let me know if you believe in the hype that self-driving cars are going to be ubiquitous. So interesting. I did this webinar for a different group a few months back, and very different results. I see them coming in here early. Definitely an engineering group. They understand. 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Let's see what you all think. So 57% of you are buying into the hype that autonomous driving vehicles are going to become ubiquitous within a decade, and 42% no. And then somebody out there, or a few people out there, think, what, are you kidding me? What does this even have to do with this presentation? Okay, hide the results, and I'm going to move on. Okay, I'm going to follow along with me for just a moment while I wax poetic. Yes, If you heard Beth earlier, yes, my undergraduate degree is in fine art, so I got a little bit of that in me. I believe the internet is to artificial intelligence as language was to Gutenberg. So with Gutenberg, those letters were making words, and those words made sentences, and those sentences expressed a thought, and those paragraphs expressed ideas, and it was those ideas that actually transformed society. So his movable type machine was actually able to transform the planet by allowing ideas to be easily and affordably expressed and proliferated. And as we all know too well, the internet has impacted even the most remote regions of our planet, and it will continue to evolve, and it will broaden its reach and its impact in politics, in culture, and equally important in business. And a lot of us have seen that impact that it's had on the airline industry. I can pretty much book a ticket. I can keep updated on the status of my flight. I can check in at the airport. I can check my bags, all without speaking to a single airline employee. And pretty soon, a number of airlines are going to roll out facial recognition technology so that I never have to see another airline employee, again. There won't be another human being I see other than those massive passengers that they manage to cram into these planes. By the way, consumer satisfaction surveys are way up for this component of the travel industry. So as consumers, we're saying that we love this technology. It's better than our old human-to-human interaction that we've been used to for eons. Last year, many of us were stunned by a demonstration by Google. I can't show you the video here, but if you search online for this Google demonstration on YouTube, it's fabulous. It's where Google Assistant placed a phone call on behalf of the human, and it carried on a conversation with an employee at a hair salon. Now, that unsuspecting salon employee had no idea that she was speaking with a bot, even though there were some interesting twists and turns in the conversation as the two of them negotiated a date and time for a haircut appointment. So this technology, it utilizes natural language processing, deep learning, text to speech, and it's just one of thousands of those canaries that I see in the professional services coal mines. Amazon, Facebook, and Netflix know so much about us that their ads are perfectly targeted to what we as individuals like. So for those in the baby boom generation, this kind of seems a little bit creepy, but it's absolutely totally normal for younger generations. For those of you who use Netflix, its AI is piecing together bits of data to provide content it believes you will enjoy. And I don't have to mention how Facebook has been gathering data on most of us in order to feed us more and more content that we're likely to engage with. And by the way, there are clear problems related to this, which I'm not going to touch on in this webinar, but the point is inescapable. The new currency is data. And the more data one has, the more important it is to have technologies that can ingest it, make sense of it, and return to us actionable and valuable information. Another example is the Cosmopolitan Hotel in Las Vegas has adopted the use of an artificial intelligence chatbot concierge. They call her Rose, and she assists their guests. Since Rose's introduction, the hotel has seen a 37% increase in on-site spending. Hotel guests have an 87% engagement rating with Rose, and 98% of the users are totally satisfied with Rose as a chatbot concierge. And remember, Rose, who's like IBM's Watson, appears as just a quaint and amusing bit of entertainment, but have no illusions as to what is going on here. Rose is the tip of the iceberg of an industry where people are looking for valuable, personal, and tailored advice. And that's probably something that all of you provide your clientele, valuable, personal, and tailored advice. So the last of those 5 functions when I was talking about AI was the deep neural network. It's truly astonishing technology because the neural network is really a computer system that's modeled on the human brain and the human nervous system. Part of the machine learning experience that we have all encountered is the reCAPTCHA. You know, it's that little annoying thing you get when your computer is doing the Turing test on you to prove that you're a human being and not a bot, that you're authentic. It's the best thing we have today to allow a computer to distinguish between the human and the computer. It might ask us to identify 5 strangely arranged letters or numbers, or find the pictures in a matrix that have the image of a traffic light in them. So this seemingly innocent technology is helping strengthen ubiquitous artificial intelligence. Every failure of a reCAPTCHA is an advance in artificial intelligence. The machines are learning from us even when we make mistakes. And now, here is why I personally am convinced that we will see autonomous driving vehicles with the same adoption rate as smartphones and smart TVs. Deep neural networks will allow cars to go beyond being only self-aware. Currently, the technology isn't really there. Every time a self-driving vehicle makes a mistake and someone dies, we're going to hear about that in the news, and we're being told that this is the death knell for the entire autonomous driving vehicle movement. And trust me, it is not even close. Currently, the state of the technology is it's only at that self-aware stage. There are cameras and various sensors all around the vehicle trying to make sense of what its limited abilities can take in. But just imagine how the game changes when these cars can become network aware. If you use the Waze app, you're going to understand what I mean. Waze uses a network where all of the devices with their technology installed are reporting back their GPS coordinates, the rate of speed, the direction of travel. And currently, with the help of humans, some additional extraneous information like road hazards and police traps. Pretty soon enough, even the humans won't be required to get this data. Now imagine what the world's going to look like when every device, every car knows what every other car is doing and intending to do. It knows that the car on your left is planning on going to an address that will require it to move to the right lane and get off at the next exit ramp. It knows that in 675 feet, there is a pothole towards the right side of the lane, and that you're going to be coming upon it at the current rate of 65 miles per hour in 6.8 seconds. It might even be aware that there's a crazy motorcyclist 2 miles down the road behind you, totally out of view. He's traveling at 80 miles per hour in your direction with a driver who just spent 2 hours at Billy Bob's Bourbon and Barbecue joint. He's had 3 drinks, he weighs 215 pounds, and he's been swerving erratically between cars. So here's a little experiment of a neural network where these cars have no drivers, they're toys, right? They are programmed simply to stay on the track. It's not a slotted track. They're going as fast as they can conceivably go. They can pass each other if they need to, the opportunity to rise, but they never touch each other, okay? By the way, this was 8 years ago, okay? That's the state of the technology way back then. Let me move on. So your job, at least my thesis is, your job is going to be disrupted. Your businesses will be transformed. And this is not conjecture, it's really a prognosis. Another canary in the coal mine of professional services that are being disrupted are radiologists. By the way, I just took a look at this a few days ago. The average annual salary for a radiologist today is $407,000 a year. Right, that's pretty sweet. I should have listened to my grandfather and become a doctor. However, due to artificial intelligence, specifically due to deep learning and computer vision, this profession is facing a real and imminent threat. AI is now able to provide an instant pathology diagnosis from an MRI, a CT, X-ray scan, nuclear medicine. These systems are optimized on the fly from a constantly growing database of scans around the world, each of them with a verified diagnosis. So the results are better than any single doctor can provide, and radiologists all up in arms and afraid of this technology have attempted to fight back with what they call swarm AI. This is where you get a consortium of radiologists to all review a scan and come together as a group with the best diagnosis. But this is totally futile. Not only is the human effort not scalable to compete with a computer, it's naive. The knowledge of each doctor can't possibly compare to the unending knowledge database being fed into the network. It gets smarter with each scan and both every correct and incorrect diagnosis. Especially those incorrect diagnoses make it smarter and better than the doctor. Machine learning and deep neural networks are transforming medicine, law, architecture, engineering, and accounting, and you can't stop it. But think about the good that it's doing for humanity. With the replacement of expensive doctors reviewing scan imagery, this technology is now available to people around the world at a fraction of the cost that it was only a decade ago. I just watched a video recently of a group a group out of Stanford University. They created an app that you can put on your smartphone. And while sitting in your doctor's office with your scans like these up on the light board, you can snap a picture of what you're looking at. And in less time than it takes for me to say this sentence, that app will be able to identify 14 different pathologies for 10 different diseases. And in addition, if it finds a match, it will explain what within the scan is leading to that diagnosis. Your doctor doesn't stand a chance. If any of you have children entering the med school today, my advice would be make sure they find a concentration that isn't radiology. So what was once the sole property of the elite is now available to the masses, just like Gutenberg's printing technology made knowledge available and helped create the Enlightenment. Okay, thank you for being patient with me while I laid out that thesis as to why AI is real. It's here now, and it's up to us to adopt it or we're going to languish. So for the next decade, the real end game is insight delivery. And here are the 5 things we look for at BQE Software when we think about what insights should we bring to our customers in order for them to be successful. And in order for us to be successful, it must increase their productivity, it must reduce their overall costs, increase their efficiency. It's going to help them win more business, more clients, and finally, of course, they should become more profitable. And if any of these 5 results are not being met, the system is actually failing. So we believe that AI will not only take on a significant share of the insight delivery process, but it will eventually remove the human from all of it entirely. So for the last 6 years, BQE's research and development team have been extremely busy building a brand new business software called Core. Besides the latest and greatest underlying technologies, Core is designed to incorporate machine learning and AI easily and rapidly. So as these tools that enable us to develop the technologies keep improving, we're able to build upon those, and so that business customers aren't left in the rapidly regressing past. If any of you, if Excel's around in 10 years, I'm completely, completely wrong, and I'll apologize. Now, I was talking about autonomous driving vehicles earlier, so let's keep with that car analogy and talk about dashboards. We should all be familiar with the value of a dashboard. Our car not only puts up that yellow warning light when it senses a nearly empty gas tank, but it can also automatically navigate us to the closest gas station. We even have systems that can look at the real-time price of gas at the various nearby gas stations and let you choose which one you want to use. I have done some research into dashboards, and I found this interesting bit of trivia that I wanted to share with you. Strangely enough, the first dashboard was truly a piece of wood. It was applied to the front of a horse-drawn carriage, and it kept the mud and other less polite debris from being kicked up by the horse's hooves and onto the passengers. And I also learned, contrary to Ford's myth, sorry if any of you are engineers at Ford, the first mass-produced automobile was the Oldsmobile curved dash, and it got its name from that wooden dashboard. So history was made, and manufacturers started mounting instruments onto the board so that the driver could know about the state of the vehicle. And today we have amazing dashboards in our cars and in our planes, and now we have them in our businesses. And they are brilliant, they're intuitive, they're effective, For our cars, we know how many miles of gas we have in the tank. We know our tire pressure in each individual tire. We know the temperature of the engine and so many other things. And we have GPS navigation that takes all the stress out of our, driving. It even tells us at what time we're going to arrive, and then we can, place the phone call to let our, the person we're visiting, know that we're going to run, 23 minutes late or whatever that might be. So what I wanted to do here was just give you a visual of what we believe business intelligence, and I'll also give you a little demonstration of artificial intelligence, come together inside of a business application. So I'm looking in our core product at just one of the many kinds of dashboards one has. This is not any unique science, but it's like the ability to see my balance sheet, and I can toggle between an accrual basis or a cash basis instantly. I don't need my accountant to have to go do these manipulations of my finances to understand where I stand. See what all the money is in my accounts, feeding off of all of my, bank accounts and other accounts in my general ledger in real time, seeing what my profitability looks like for my clients and how much have I earned in revenue, how much have I spent out of my pocket, what my profit margins are. I can even go inside, like into a project. This thing is the Aspen Cultural Center, and I could see instantly how much do we have of work in progress? What's the value, the billable value that I can pass on to my client at any second throughout the day? And that is live updating throughout the day. What has this project determined is the value of any write-ups or write-downs? No one needs to calculate this because the system is managing that we've $32,000 in write-ups. That's a beautiful figure to see. Normally you might see write-downs. What's the state of the billing? We still have $15,000 in receivables. My earned value, I still have $209,000 to bill on my project. I'm 14% profit margin in spite of the $32,000 in write-ups. I've spent $296,000 of my money, that's out of my pocket, to bill my client $344,000. So I walked away with a $47,000 cash profit. What are my utilization rates? Comparing side by side my contract and my budget and looking at my earned value. These don't require Excel. These don't require anything other than people tracking their time and billing their clients, and the business intelligence put all that together. Here I'm looking at an employee record, and I can see how has that employee, what's been her effective or her realized bill rate? What should I pay my employee? Think about that. Business intelligence is telling me what the appropriate, or what it knows the employee's utilization and realization rates, and it knows her current salary and the multiple of direct salary expense that gets to break even. It knows my company's profit expectations. I tell it I want a 20% profit margin. Otherwise, I'll put it in some investment and go sit on the beach. But when I'm running a business, I want a 20% profit. Based on all of these metrics, it's telling me I should pay Sally $32 an hour and I'll make my 20% profit margin. So right now I pay Sally based on what her experience level is, or I hired her away from another firm and I had to earn, give her a salary to match what she was being paid or beat that number. How utilized has she been? What kind of margins did I get from her? How much did she actually earn from me? Anyway, so that is the dashboards that we have within our employees and our projects and our vendors and our clients in our core environment. I also wanted to share with you a rather interesting use of core intelligence. Now, this was a recent advancement that we made here at BQE. We released it last month. It's the ability to literally speak to your software, to speak to core and have it provide you with insights. Mind you, in order to demonstrate this in a webinar, I did this a week ago, I made a recording where I have my iPhone running the Google Assistant installed so that I could display it on the screen. And then I'm using Core's web app on the left. So you're going to see me manipulating both the phone and the web app on the left simultaneously while I talk to Core Intelligence through my phone. And by the way, this is really a first version of Core Intelligence, so you're going to notice that there was a mistake made where Core didn't really fully understand my question. And while we sorted it out, Core does get smarter, and it uses natural language processing and machine learning to improve. So I'm going to have to plug in the little audio cable, so give me a second, and I'll watch this demonstration of Core Intelligence. Talk to core intelligence.
All right, getting the test version of Core Intelligence. Hey, Stephen Burns, what's on your mind?
What's the ideal pay rate for Sally Ryan this year?
This year, the ideal pay rate for Sally is $36 per hour. Do you need anything else?
Yes, what was her ideal pay rate last year?
Last year, the ideal pay rate for Sally would have been $27 per hour. Do you need anything else?
What's the status of the Pasadena Elementary School project?
Sorry, I did not get that, but I am always learning. Would you like to know anything else?
What's the status of the Pasadena Elementary School
Is that a client or project?
project?
Did you mean Pasadena Elementary School?
Yes.
The project is doing extremely well with a profit percent 8%. 1702 owes us $39,207 with $14,449 of work in progress. Do you want to know more about 1702?
What's the work in hand?
The project is at 87% earned value. At $243,000 contracted and $211,955 earned, there is a remaining of $31,045 work in hand. Anything else?
What's on my to-do list today?
You have one thing on your to-do list for today's date. Deliver webinar titled A Seamless Experience, Tips for Working with Core on the Road and in the Office. Is there anything else?
Who's my best employee this year?
This year, Jan DeMarco is ranked #1 among 43 employees with an effective bill rate of $265 per hour. What else can I help you with?
Who was my best client last year?
Last year, Long Beach Sports is ranked #1 among 13 clients with 135% profit, which amounts to $128,167. Anything else?
What's the balance of the Wells Fargo savings account?
The balance for Wells Fargo savings account is $49,899. Any other questions?
How is my business doing this year?
This year, your net profit is 36%, which amounts to $376,858. You have $1,035,934 of income and $659,075 of expenses. Anything else?
No, goodbye.
Thanks for using Core Intelligence. Till next time.
Okay, I hope that audio worked there. I wasn't able to tell. I could just see the microphone was moving, so hopefully you got to hear that. By the way, there was another little mistake I made on the web app where I was talking about the Long Beach Sports Stadium, and looking at the profitability, I had set it to last year, but not up through last year, so it didn't have the years prior to last year in there. But that was, for the most part, it was working pretty cool. These are the things that we think are really making the game changer for it. You might ask important, information like what's next on my calendar, and you're probably already doing this with, Google Assistant or Amazon Alexa, and it looks at your calendar and it'll say things like you're scheduled to meet with Howard Jennings in 25 minutes to discuss risk management. That's just looking at a calendar entry. But you might also get this information, like based on current traffic, it's going to take you 15 minutes to get to his office. That's all well and good. That's good AI. We add on top of that, remind him that he's late on your June 29th invoice and the balance owed is $12,000. That's what I mean when I think about AI making much better decisions and providing much better, more valuable information, where we as a human wouldn't normally think about running an AR report before I go have a meeting. It's able to calculate all that for us. Another use case might be just asking, how is my business doing? You remember me doing that before? We have other ways of modeling that. We'll say you're doing very well. Your income is up 17% over last year's profit. Profits are 26%. The balance sheet looks stronger with a 22% increase in assets. Nice way to look at it. So all I'm trying to point out is, imagine walking into your office and having a majority of your tasks already completed by your core AI assistant. Tasks like billing your clients, updating your project schedule, processing your payroll. even looking 360 degrees into your business and helping you prioritize your day. These are all coming, if they're not already here, they're also coming in AI. Another great use case, are there any financial problems, right? Ask, how would you do that today? You'd have to run some reports, analyze P&L, understand your balance sheet, look at your payables, look at your receivables, look at what's coming up for payroll. You got to put those pieces of the puzzle together. Just imagine saying, any financial problems coming up, and it'll say your checking account is insufficient to handle the next payroll on Friday, October 12th. You need an additional $1,223 in your checking account. Total payable due this month exceed the balance in your checking account by this. So the system is actually able to analyze. It can look at what are your receivables. It will know that each of those clients has an a different averaging aging date. Somebody pay you within 15 days, somebody else might pay you in 35 days, and it will give you an expectation as to what kind of income we really will see in a cash basis based on all those receivables, to be able to tell you, should you be concerned or not be concerned? Also, when looking at software products for your company to help you get ready for the AI revolution, make sure you're looking at things that are mobile first. These are just some snapshots of some of the screens of the core mobile app, just so you understand it needs to be fully robust and not require you to have to be sitting at a computer, a laptop at your desk to get your business done. Mobile first. I remember running a survey in 2012 asking business owners, do you see the mobile platform as essential for your business in the next 10 years? And the answer was 8% said yes. Today, it's like 98%, okay? Mobile is where you need to be. So here's my advice if your firm's going to be seeking new systems to move into the forefront of your profession. One, make sure it's software driven. Again, Excel is not software driven. It's a software product. It requires a human to gather data. It's full of mistakes, missing data. There's multiple truths. You don't know which Excel spreadsheet's the right one. You have to create those pivot tables and feed it, and you have to be on top of it. It needs to be software driven. It needs to be mobile first, as I just mentioned. It needs to be fully integrated, so that previously we were all really excited by our mobile phones where you have these apps. Let's get a really fabulous one-trick pony app. It has a great to-do list app, a great time capturing app, a nice receipt or expense tracking app, a nice billing app, a nice scheduling app. All these things were apps. They were not connected. And that hope that we all had that those individual apps would all have some digital plumbing connecting all of them, that never materialized. So you have to build those yourselves. That's incredibly difficult, and especially when products are changing all the time. So make sure that you find a system that is already fully integrated. Make sure when it does integrate with other things that it's supporting push and pull, that you don't have to manually, export and then import. That's a nightmare, and you can't rely on it. Make sure it's built for your industry. So if you're sitting in the dentist chair under Novocaine and he's telling you about this fabulous scheduling software he uses to schedule his patients, don't run back to your office half under the influence of drugs and then go get that software. You're not a dental practice. Find systems that understand your pain points, how you think and operate in your industry. And lastly, make sure it has that BI built directly into it, because if you don't have business intelligence, you really don't have any chance of competing in the future. You're really continuing to rely on your own intelligence to understand your business. Okay, poll question 4. Feel free to answer it or not answer it. I won't share the results. Just if any of you want to know more, this is my marketing department asking me to ask this question. So let's launch that poll. So if you'd like to know more about BQE Core, our practice management solution, just let us know and we'll be able to get back in touch with you later. So I'll just give you a few seconds just to say yes or no. No problem, no insult. I'll just give you 5 more seconds, let me know. Also helps me know if you're still awake or did I bore you terribly. And then we're gonna move in. Well, I have one more thing I want to share with you before I move to Q&A, and I apologize because I now know it's exactly 11 o'clock. So let me do this before I move on to my next slides into Q&A. I know I need to pass it back to Beth at 11. So let me close the poll. Beth, I'm going to pass it back to you, and then I'm going to take it back for Q&A. So we'll close the poll, and we're going to change the presenter to Beth. So Beth, would you like to, Beth, are you there? Kari, can you help out here?
I'm here.
So what
Okay,
happened to
was
Beth?
it that? I am here for the Q&A, and we have some questions, so let's hit it. The first question is there a minimum size firm at which BI, business intelligence, becomes efficient? Is the software flexible for small, medium, large, and very large firms?
Oh, wait. I will answer that, but I notice now Beth is back with her slides.
Beth is back.
So
Steve,
Beth,
I'm so sorry. It was on mute and I kept trying to unmute it and it wouldn't let me until I accepted screen share. Do you want me to wrap up and at least acknowledge for those who do want to log off, they're free to log off at this point?
yeah,
And
I'm going
then-
to stick around. Yeah,
Okay.
give them the information they need. I'm happy to stick around and answer the questions, and then
Okay. I just want to reiterate for all of you who want to go ahead and log off and you have all the information you need, you can go to the control panel that you've been accessing all the information from, and the drop down on the handouts. You can download your certificate of completion for an individual. Like I said previous, if you have multiple viewers watching it, also go to the handout section and download the multiple viewer form and fill it out per the instructions on the form. The PDF of this presentation that Steve has just went through is going to be made available at csengineermag.com/continuing-education. There you can find the archive video as well as the PDF. And I think that's about it. But those who are still interested in participating and hearing the Q&A, just continue on. And I will hand over the screen share back to you, Steve.
okay. Thank you, Beth. I'm sorry for running long. I tried to speak as fast as I possibly could. And Kari, if you want to, I'm going to share my screen anyway.
Okay, you want me to, readdress the question?
Yeah, please.
Yes, and so David is staying online. Thank you, David, and I apologize. We are running a little bit over, but your question, is there a minimum size firm at which BI becomes efficient? Is the software flexible for small, medium, large, and very large firms?
Let's break that into two parts. First, there is no minimum size. Just think about it. If you're a sole proprietor, you still don't want to spend your time doing all of those mundane, repetitive tasks that BI is capable of doing for you. So it then comes kind of like to the second part of your question, which has to do with maybe the scale and the cost of things. So the software itself is extraordinarily scalable. It doesn't matter to us if you're a sole proprietor or if you're, a 2,000 person firm. The software is unaffected by that. It has more to do with your, the culture of a firm about, do you want to make that change in your company? I guess that's the best I can say is if I was a sole proprietor today, I would still be using Core because it frees me up to do what I love to do. So another question, Kari?
Okay, so so you addressed both parts of the question. Next question is, how much is Core anyway?
Oh, it depends on what you're using in it. It's one of those products that is like a buffet depending on what modules you put on it. So my best advice would be to go to BQE.com and just you can find that out there. It's a subscription-based software. I'm not in the sales department. I'm more in the development side of things. So go to BQE.com and you can learn more about pricing.
Dave asks, could you discuss how, my screen moved, how AI can be used in the design process? This part is interesting. I'm assuming he's talking about the business intelligence part, but there has to be ways to leverage AI to reduce actual labor hours to maximize profits.
Well, gosh, I mean, that's already happening. I mean, if you, of course, our company only really deals on the business side of firms, but if you're looking at the design process, clearly AI is there. When you look at products like Vectorworks and Revit and ArchiCAD, these are products and so many analytical tools that used to take manpower to actually figure things out, and studying the environment and the weather, and there's so many, you know, the sun, and there's so many things that are being helped that aid in the design process, but that's not a focus of our company, so I'm not really the best person to do it. But AI is involved in making that information happen, because, you know, if you're trying to design a structure that has to deal with, you know, wind loads, whatever, or has issues with the climate, the database coming from climate throughout the year, those averages, those are coming in possibly in real time if you're using, you know, modern products. So but I don't want to talk about the design side of our business.
Okay, so the next question is, someone wants to know, if we switch to core from our current software, what is the learning curve?
Well, that's a great question. Typically what happens is there's a data migration. So your firm is using some software today. Our data migration team will gather that data from you and your firm, and we migrate into core. That whole process of data migration and training typically takes 4 weeks to 6 weeks on average. And that's where your firm helps, you know, we work with your firm to find out what are your, you know, minimum viable functions that you need to go live with the software. The idea is that, you know, you get very powerful software. You don't need to learn the entire thing before you deploy it. You sort of get it out there and get it in use. And then as time goes, you learn more features in the product and utilize the things that make sense for you. But a 4 to 6 week period is really what we typically see for firms of all sizes to move from an old system into the core environment and be up and running.
Okay. And we actually have a comment from one of our customers, actually, who says, and it's Mark, and he says, we use core and it is excellent. We want to integrate proposals and fee. We currently use Word for it. You know, is there any opportunity to do proposal in core?
My gosh, we should. So later this month, Mark, if you're using Core today, you will notice that over the past 6 months, Core HR was in beta, and then 2 weeks ago, that became a full-fledged product on its own. Core CRM, Client Relationship Management, is coming later this month. That will be in beta for about 6 months. So that is exactly what you're talking about, which is responding to RFPs and RFQs, building your proposals, and really working the whole winning the project side of the business. Let's call it the marketing department side of your business. So it's not a Word document, though you can always still continue to use Word to build those kinds of documents. Maybe you're using, you know, forms, industry forms, but the Core CRM tool will really come out later this month for beta, and you can play with that there. And I'd love to hear what you think about it. And that's part of why we go to beta, is we want to understand how it's working for you and make the changes in it so it works well.
Okay, well, Steve, that is it for questions.
Oh, cool. That means I don't have to respond to any later, and we can type those and answer those and send them out as part of the video. Is that something we're gonna do?
If there are some questions that we didn't get to, we will still address them, and we will be happy to answer them directly with the person who asked the question.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Kari. Thanks, Beth. Really appreciate everything, and thanks for hanging out, people.
Thank you, everyone, for staying. Have a good day.